Okay, Brain, it is Friday.
It is
June
officially
24th.
Friday.
What are you bringing?
Well, actually, I didn't have to bring this. This was brought to us from Steve
West
and his wife, right? They
Ozzy.
came out. Ozzy.
Yes.
Ozzy came, and they came from New Zealand. They were here a week ago, and they brought some wine. This one I think would be a very nice afternoon wine. It's a little warm here. This is a Villa Maria, and Villa Maria is on the North Island. So you've got actually the biggest city in New Zealand on the North Island. Auckland is up there. And I think that's where they were from, was Auckland.
Yes.
Down a little bit south of Auckland is the Marlborough area. It's a really good area for Pinot Noir and Sauvignon Blanc.
This is okay. What is this?
This is a Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh,
I mean, excuse me,
really?
not Sauvignon Blanc.
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir. I was talking about
very-
the area,
very
Sauvignon
nice
Blanc
wine.
and Pinot Noir.
I don't believe I've had a Pinot from New Zealand.
No, and
I've had some Sauvignon Blancs.
Right.
That they're kind of turning into a gig.
oh, the
in New Zealand.
Yeah, let me think.
And
Cloudy Bay was the winery that really put New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs on the map. Yeah.
And some Chardonnays that are pretty good. But I had not had a Pinot from New Zealand. This is quite tasty.
And they've got, I mean, they're in a relatively cool area, which Pinot Noir likes. It's right now I guess it would be winter down there.
Steve's an interesting guy. He does software for disc jockeys.
Yeah, he does. He's got a
He
heck of
kind of owns it. I mean,
Yeah, he sounds like
is
he's really
the
hot.
software. He's got some sort of a PC thing where they can run MP3s or even the old records and so forth, and make sense of all of it for disc jockeys. And he's done pretty well with that. He was here actually for the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference.
Yes.
And is a pretty bright guy and quite interested in electric vehicles.
That's got some
and
alcohol.
came and spent the day with us, and we had a good time. We just didn't have the cameras rolling. And so
it was an off day. I think it was
we'll drink his
Monday.
wine by ourselves. He's gone back home. But interesting visit.
Yeah, and we'll see, I think, him and his brother at his brother in Austin, who I think is either building or is going to build an electric car.
That's right.
Yeah, so they'll be
Austin,
coming.
Texas is shaping up as kind of a very interesting area. And yes, I think his brother is doing something down there. We have something else I want to show you.
Okay.
We have a viewer named Fred Behning from Austin.
Oh, okay.
And Fred,
All right, Fred.
my weakness for yellow cars.
Yeah, or yellow shoes.
Picture a very yellow 1960 Bug-Eye Sprite.
He did a Bug-Eye Sprite.
He's
Oh,
doing
man.
it up right. Let's take a
Really?
look.
All right.
Hi, I'm Fred Behning from Austin, Texas, and I'm here to introduce my project, the Ebug-Eye. Jack Rickard asked me to put together a little video on my build, and I'm glad to do that, but I felt like I needed to follow in the footsteps of EVTV tradition and start with a little libation. And since I don't have a compadre and consigliere, doing this all myself, I thought I would start with a bottle of very nice Texas wine. This is Austin, Texas, after all. This is San Genevieve, and according to the label, it's bottled and cellared in Fort Stockton, Texas. Now, I have no idea where the grapes came from. I don't think they grow them around here, but it's bottled and cellared in Fort Stockton. It's a very serviceable Shiraz, obtained by my fine wine purveyor of choice, the HEB grocery store, for $5.85 for 1.5 liters. Not bad. So let's take a minute and introduce Ebug-Eye. This is a car that I've owned for quite some time. I bought this thing in 1986, and it was basically the better part of 3 cars at that point. There was a 1965 box sprite, which is a later model, which had a serious case of tin worm, rust and cancer of the worst sort. But it did have a ribcase transmission and front disc brakes, which was kind of useful. This Bug-Eye behind me was basically an empty tub. The hood, or the Bug-Eye nose, which you'll see a little bit later, was from a third car. And the motor was sitting in a corner of the guy's garage that I bought it from. And he said that it had been a an F production race motor that had been going down the back stretch, the back straightaway at Road Atlanta when its oil plug fell out and it puked all of its oil all over the main straightaway. And after I finally got it running, I understood what that meant. It was thoroughly worn out. Well, after doing a fairly substantial rebuild on that motor and moving a lot of components, including the disc brakes, over to the bug eye, I got this car on the road in 1992. And since that time, it has been driven very lightly because, frankly, it hasn't run very well. That motor, for all of its raceworthiness, was never very good. But over time, I modified the car. It has a 390 rear axle ratio rather than the original 422, which may or may not be the right thing for EV purposes, but it's a much better rear axle as far as sprites are concerned. I added tube shocks all the way around in replacement of the lever arm shocks that were original to the car. And I also updated the front disc brakes and completely rebuilt the front suspension. Over the years, of course, I've also broken half shafts, and those have been replaced. I rebuilt the rear drums, and it's essentially, as a rolling tub, very well known to me. And I know that the brakes, the suspension, the bodywork are all very sound. It was the motor that was in question. And so in my mind, at least, it made a very good candidate for a conversion.
Let's take a moment and survey the project car. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 1960 Austin Healey Sprite. Over against the wall is the hood, and it's a little hard to see from here, but this car was commonly called the bug-eyed Sprite in North America and the frog-eye Sprite in the UK. There's a little poster there of a racing version. You kind of see why they would call it a bug eye or frog eye. It's a little anthropomorphic in that regard. At any rate, the car is a 1960. Of course, I did the body work and so forth when I put it on the road in 1992, and it's still in fairly decent condition from that perspective. A few scratches. You know, occasionally the bicycle drops on it in the garage and that sort of thing. In the front, first thing you'll notice there is the Soliton 1 controller. I elected to use that because the Soliton Junior wasn't even mentioned at that point. I think the Soliton Junior might be more appropriate for the car, and after Jack's experience with smoking the clutch on Speedster Redux, I'm going to be very careful with the ramp rate on this because this car is almost certainly about 500 pounds lighter. So at the core we have a Soliton 1 where you can't see it. I'll see if I can get the camera down here to where it's useful. Hiding way back underneath there is a Warp 9, and I bought this before the 26 update version, so this is the older version. I don't know that that really makes an awful lot of difference. In the front you'll see that I've got four packs of GBS lithium iron phosphate cells laying down on their sides. It's the only way to clear the hood with them. There are two more in the back where the original starter battery used to live. And on the left-hand side here, you'll see an IOTA DC-DC converter and a little AGM motorcycle ATV battery that we'll use for powering the 12-volt system and providing backups to the DC-DC converter. All of the wiring in the front has been completely redone. The 12-volt system completely rewired, and all of that gathered into a wire loom that keeps everything pretty tidy and out of the way. Also in the front is the front battery pack fuse and the emergency shutoff contactor. Those are located in front of the battery pack. Interestingly, they are located high enough that the bug eye's grill is below them, so they shouldn't be subject to any real moisture or spray, but just in case I may put a plastic shield in front of them. Over here on the passenger side, you'll see a little fuse box. Would you believe that in 1960 there were only 3 fuses and 3 fused circuits on that car? And so I've duplicated that. There's a circuit breaker to control the DC-DC converter and a fairly standard surface mount Ethernet connector. The Ethernet connector is wired back to the Soliton, and as you can see there is not a lot of clearance between the Soliton and the battery pack, so I felt it was would be a lot better for service to have the Ethernet port available in a fairly free area so as not to have to squeeze it in between the batteries and the controller. Here's another view of that basket of snakes that I mentioned earlier. There's quite a bit of spaghetti here, and the 12-volt wiring probably will be as big a challenge as the high voltage wiring itself. The dashboard is essentially complete, and I'm going to be setting that in, and of course all that wiring you saw hanging down has got to connect to something underneath here. The gauges themselves are all new. I ordered them from Speed Hut online, and because of the nature of their business, they're able to do imprints. So I asked that Ebug be imprinted on my gauges. On the far left here I have a voltmeter for the 12-volt system, a GPS-based speedometer, so I don't have to tie it into the transmission and deal with the vagaries of tire diameters and so forth. To the right of that is an electronic tachometer, which I'm going to drive with the off-the-net gain motor. And to the right of that is a fuel gauge. And my plan is to drive that fuel gauge from a Ziva 2 Hall effect amp counter. Apparently Jack has had some good luck with that, and I hope I have good luck as well. To the right of that is, of course, the ignition headlamp combo switch. Above that is a turn signal. To its left is the wiper switch. To the right, the error light, and of course the big red emergency contact button. So this is where the rear batteries will live. This little cubby hole, the British call this the boot. We might call it the trunk. But in that space, you're going to have 10 of the 4-packs present. And below that, 2 of the 4-packs in the space previously occupied by the gas tank. And I'm right now considering cutting the top of the gas tank off and using the tank itself as a housing for those 2 batteries. We'll see how that goes when I get to it. But as you can see, the challenge here is that all of those batteries and all of the connections need to be made while laying on your tummy in that very narrow slot of opening over the axle hump and behind where the seats will eventually be reinstalled. The cells that I'm using are from GBS. They're lithium iron phosphate, 100 amp hour cells, 3.2 volts nominal, and they are unique and rather different from the Winston or China aviation batteries that are commonly seen in most conversions, in that rather than having a single threaded hole to make a contact with a strap between cells, a contactor strap, there are aluminum pads which are bored and tapped for small screws to hold a silver-plated copper strap that connects the cells. The idea being that it's more important to have contact area than it is to have high torque. The contact area being as large as it is, the 4 small screws maintain that contact, and because of the lock washers and so forth, will continue to do that, where a single threaded bolt might tend to back out. Don't know how true that is, we'll find out in practice. The straps themselves are quite beautiful. Matter of fact, they're almost jewelry quality. They're silver-plated copper, and they set in here and connect the cells together. And again, those are held in place with 4 threaded Phillips head screws. Now, once those are all in place, there is also a plastic shield available, which can then cover the whole thing, and while not weather tight, can certainly protect them from the inadvertent wrench drop and so forth. But it's very nice design and quite nicely integrated. Another point of integration is the charger. This little charger is either 110 or 220 volts. I've connected a 220 volt, 20 amp twist lock plug here, which will mate with a twist lock receptacle that's inside the car and connected to the charging port. This charger is designed to interface directly with the BMS. There's a little cable connector over here directly below the output cable. And it communicates with the BMS and handles the low voltage, high voltage charging situation. I know Jack is rather reluctant to buy into the whole BMS thing, and I certainly understand his point and considered it when I was looking at this unit. But the level of integration at the manufacturer of the BMS with the charger and the batteries themselves, the physical co-location of the front boards, led me to think in this case it's probably worth the risk. We'll find out in practice, but at least I'm going to assemble it and use it out of the chute. The charging inlet port is installed on the rear deck right where the old gas cap used to be. And if we open this up, you'll see that I've selected a NEMA 6 plug, which will carry 220 volts and at 20 amps. That's connected on the inside to that NEMA 6 twist lock adapter, which will mate with either the charger or my J1772 adapter. The J1772 adapter is from Tucson EV, and that allows me to plug into the soon-to-be 1,000 public charging stations that City of Austin has announced that they'll be implementing here in the city by the end of the year, end of December 2011. We'll see how that goes, but at least I'm prepared for that. And this will be able to plug either directly into the charge port through that twist lock NEMA 6 adapter, and I'll put an appropriate plug on here. I'm also going to build a small jumper cable that connects through the external charging port as well, with a NEMA 6 adapter on both ends. The reason for that is also mitigated by the fact that we have a Nissan Leaf on order, scheduled to deliver the first week in July, and in preparation for that I've installed the AeroVironment's charging station on my wall here. Not nearly as elegant as the Texaco Fire Chief gas pump, but certainly should be effective, and I think I'm going to get double duty out of that by charging both the Ebug as well as the Leaf, which I suspect my wife will soon take over, and I'll never see it again. I wanted to give you a look at the rear battery pack, which is right now a work in progress. The rear 4 battery packs are in place, and I'm essentially doing a dry run on the workbench because, as you saw, there is no trunk lid, and this will be installed in that boot area by crawling in through the rather narrow opening behind where the seats will be. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to see what this looks like with the strapping in place and held down by the 4 little Phillips head screws. The battery management system, and here are a bunch of the front boards, is going to connect into the space between the jumpers on each of the battery cells. I've already done that in the front, and it will do the same back here. 6 more battery packs will be placed in the front section. They will be standing on their ends, and this allows me to put the bulk of the weight as close to the center line of the car as possible. And again, I will completely connect those here on the workbench and then do only that amount of disconnection that's needed to put them back into that boot area as we get to the final installation. I also plan to fabricate all of the cabling and fuses and everything else that needs to be involved in this rear battery pack area. So that's a quick look at the eBug project to date. It is a work in progress, and I plan to have it finished for the September conference up in Cape Girardeau. I'll be bringing it, and I look forward to meeting Jack and Brian and all of the other EV conversion folk who will be converging there in Missouri in September. I probably won't bring any Saint Genevieve with me, but I do promise to bring along some Shiner Bock and put those on ice, and we'll enjoy those along with some of Jack's homebrew. So signing off for now, I'm Fred Behning, and look forward to seeing you all in September.
EVnetics Electric Vehicle Systems presents the Soliton 1 controller. 1,000 amps of continuous power at up to 340 volts. Enough power to drive your dream car while automatically protecting your precious battery pack. Built-in contactors and pre-charge circuit reduces parts count. Each Soliton 1 controller undergoes rigorous dynamometer qualification. An easy-to-use web interface configuration with real-time data logger through an Ethernet connection. The only controller with programmable idle function ideal for automatic transmissions. Liquid cooling for high-power operation. EVnetics Soliton 1. Very dangerous, very high voltage.
That's pretty cool.
That's Fred and the
I know why
Sprite.
it looks like a yellow croc going
Yeah,
down the
GBS batteries, a Soliton, a warp. This car, he's gonna. Fred, be very careful on the first couple of drives. He's got more EV in that car than you should be able to put in that car.
That's right.
That car is not that big. It's not that heavy.
No.
And he is bringing it, by the way, to EVcon.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And but he could be a contender on the strip.
All right.
Because he's just got more battery, motor, and controller than a 1960 Bug-Eye Sprite quite merits.
Than it needs.
if he doesn't break all 4 shock absorbers, he's going to have a hot little number there.
All right.
And
cool.
so
look forward to seeing it in person.
To see him and that at EVCON in September. But he made this little video. I'm not sure he didn't use his iPhone or something.
Really?
To make
It's a nice video.
And it's a pretty good video.
Yeah, it's a good video.
I told him, I said, you're going to put us out of business. This is pretty good. So now that we've done that, I guess we'll back up and do our news segment.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that was news anyway.
Well, yeah, kind of. It's a cool little car, Bug-Eye Sprite. You know, I'm a MG.
I know you got a few MGs.
We got to do one of the MGs
All
at some point.
right. We can do it as our next project.
What have you heard?
Well, just want to let everybody know that they've got a couple of months to buy a Roadster. I mean, from Tesla, because that's going to be about it. It sounds like. I couldn't tell from the article if they were just committing that you could not get any in North America first, or what exactly they were doing before they focus on the Model S with the Roadster.
They're going to run out in North America first.
They're going to run out first in North America?
They've still got a few overseas, but
Okay.
This car is destined to become a collectible. It can't not be.
Oh, yeah, the limited production, sure.
It's a 2400 run, and it's not that it's not been popular, although it's very pricey and for a very select clientele of early adopters. Again, I've tried to get across that Tesla is making the trip here. But Lotus there's no contract after that, and Lotus is retooling.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're redoing their whole line,
thing, yep.
And so there's simply no more Elises to be
that are available. Yeah,
Tesla Roadsters.
Right.
They have no further obligation to Tesla, and so a Roadster could come back, but you can never have one of the first Tesla Roadsters that isn't one of these 2400, which is inherently a limited edition.
Right. Very collectible.
I think they will complete the 2400, whatever happens to Tesla in the future, and so this is a collectible car.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll probably try to pick up one on eBay used, but you got to have one eventually.
Yeah.
They are pricey. I guess I would, at this point, just come clean, because it's now obvious that what I told you a year ago was dead nuts on. The move to an economy car, and Fred Behning has a Leaf on order.
Oh, okay.
It's our people that are buying these cars.
Yeah.
And they're not selling enough of them, neither General Motors nor Leaf. They have spun it about, they blamed it on hurricanes, tsunamis, plant difficulties.
In fact, they put out a Nissan.
What's the latest?
Well, they're talking about that it was the tsunami, which has delayed everything, but in fact, the tsunami in Japan now is probably going to delay the start of manufacture in Smyrna, Tennessee. I didn't know that Smyrna was affected by the tsunami. This was the company that was going to
sell 150,000 electric cars a year. General Motors had recently announced an increase from a planned production of 110,000 a year, all the way up to 60,000, and they have to shut down the plant and retool for it.
Man, what output.
They are spinning this as hard as they can. Listen to me, guys. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been to this rodeo before. There are no shortcuts. The OEMs are not going to bring you this. It's not nirvana. We have some new batteries that enable this technology to change the world with electric cars. The process is not as slick as talking General Motors into making your dreams come true. I'm sorry. It's going to be a 10 to 12, perhaps 14-year cycle of crawling through piss, blood, and razor blades on your hands and knees to get this done. The good news is it's going to be done.
It's going to happen, yeah.
The genie is out of the bottle, but it's kind of you guys that are doing it. And we've had a tremendous problem talking with vendors and people. I'm just up to here with it, wanting to sell to OEMs. And let me explain a couple of things to you. This OEM thing, you know, I've poo-pooed that because it's not so good to sell to OEMs. But it doesn't matter. General Motors bringing you the electric vehicle would be like Burlington Northern bringing you the DC-3. All they have to do that, aside from getting $1 Brazilian from the government,
right, from the government, yeah,
is completely reinvent who they are. The kind of entity that can mass produce millions of cars is not the kind of entity that does revolutionary innovation.
That type of innovation.
They can do incremental innovations. They can narrow the ashtray by 1/8 of an inch every succeeding model year until it finally disappears.
Yeah, it did.
The concept of the ashtray or why you would need it, they can't do that part.
That's right. They can't even find it now.
There will be huge companies. I suppose you would call them OEMs. Mm-hmm. They will come
at some point
from you guys, not from General Motors, not from Toyota. The chairman of Toyota can feel the winds of the future. What he can't do is be the winds of the future.
No.
Not without firing everybody at Toyota, selling off all the plants, and starting over
again
as one of you.
Yeah.
This is not a Jack Rickard thing. This is just the way things work. Of course, IBM and Microsoft and AT&T should have invented the internet. Why didn't they?
They were just too busy doing other things.
Because they were busy being IBM and AT&T and Microsoft.
Right. They couldn't stop in the middle and change.
And mostly they saw it as a threat because it's a disruptive technology that eats their business model.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the electric car. There will be huge companies. We just don't know who they are.
No, and they're
because
you're out
Cisco
there listening.
Systems was 3 guys. Google was 2 guys. Facebook was 1 guy. He was actually 4 guys, but he screwed the other 3 guys and took it for himself.
Yeah, but 2 of them were twins. They only count as 1.
Even Microsoft was 2 guys.
2 guys, yeah.
I don't know which one of you is going to be part of this, but I know who isn't going to be part of it, and it's not going to be General Motors, and it's not going to be Toyota. I have a 1991 GM electric van in the corner. POS, DOA.
DOA.
Part of the ongoing experiments where they can never get it off the ground. Elon Musk, Tesla, different ball game.
Different story, yeah.
He understands this S-curve adoption model, which is immutable. I can't change it. Elon Musk can't change it. And General Motors and Barack Obama can't vote it out of existence.
No. Got to figure out how to use it.
You cannot produce a proper value proposition for the mass market without getting the cost of the components down to an affordable level. And you can't do that without producing a lot of them.
Yeah, you have to have numbers. Yeah.
They haven't even been invented yet. We don't have the ideal motor. We don't have the ideal controller. We don't even have the ideal battery. That's what we're working toward, and some of those components are going to win and start to build volume and become the players. And there'll be individuals deploy those into vehicles not so much different than what we're building right here, but with much greater capabilities and a much better value proposition over the next decade. It's not going to be easy. A lot of people are going to go broke, think is bankrupt.
Yes.
Enter One, the battery company, who doesn't want to talk to us because they only sell to OEM. They sold to an OEM.
Yeah, there you go. There's your selling OEM.
Yeah, $79 million investment down the tubers there, Enter One. Why don't you people apply for a job with Wayne Alexander and learn how to build an electric car first?
Yeah, well, you can have the debt of the guy you invest in, you know.
Yeah, you can have that.
I can have the debt.
And so, you know, I've been kind of coy about this. I've known how this was going to go all along. Could I have been wrong? Could it go different? Of course not. It's not gonna. It's just this way. And it's an exciting time. It has huge opportunity for you. And some of you are gonna just go completely bankrupt, lose your house, your wife, everything.
Well,
some of you are gonna be tomorrow's Google, Facebook, or General Motors. I can't pick the winners, and neither can they.
No, and that's the
so it's
real
an
rub.
exciting time, and you guys are the flag wavers, and I think it's going to be a shit pot full of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hoot.
So that's my soliloquy on that. Little news here on the battery front that it's kind of interesting in several ways. One, there is an announcement that Winston Chung was fired from the Thunder Sky Battery Company.
Yeah, that was out.
Has everybody up in arms. It's true, but it's not precisely the way it's portrayed in the forums and with all the concern. Winston Chung founded a company called Thunder Sky Battery, and we have bought several of their batteries, and in fact we're going to use Thunder Sky 90s on the Cobra. And we're going to talk about that today. He apparently, there was an initial public offering. He was traded, I think, on the Singapore Exchange or the Hong Kong Exchange. Had some investors, but as of the end of 2010, still owned 79% of the company.
Oh, okay. Okay, he didn't sell off that much.
February, he started selling it off, and by March, he was down to 43%.
Okay.
And he used those proceeds to...
he also had money.
He gifted the University of California, Riverside.
He had $10 million.
Started another company, which then bought 48% of Balcon.
Right.
And he started the Winston Battery Company Limited, one of our sponsors. That actually left a company called Thunder Sky Battery.
Right.
And apparently they noticed in the spring of this year that he was gone and had gone and started another company and
cashed out a bunch of his stock.
Cashed out most of his stock.
What happened to Winston?
And so they've decided to fire him.
Oh, there you go. He was already gone.
I don't know what the securities laws are in China. I understand they may not be as advanced as they are here. Or what,
more advanced.
how their litigation works over patents and so forth. I think Winston Chung owns the patents himself, personally.
Of the
and so, but they have announced that they are changing their name to the Sino-Poly Battery Company.
So that's, you're talking about Thunder Sky now.
Thunder Sky.
Has changed their name, okay.
So we have Winston Battery Company Limited. Thunder Sky is now the Sino-Poly Battery Company.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting because they've gone green on their spec sheet.
Ah.
They don't feature the yttrium. They're kind of back with the old chemistry. But guess what I found? Actually, I didn't. Eric Chris. We ought to probably just put him on staff.
Yeah.
I hear from him every day. The 200 amp hour battery in the original 71 millimeter by 279 millimeter by 182 millimeter package.
So what was there, 160 format before?
It was, and the Cal 180.
Right, okay.
But this is a 200 amp hour cell, still at 5.6 kilograms.
Oh.
So far, I have been unable to get Sinopoly to respond to an email, but we'll find out soon enough if these are really for sale. In any event, the concept of Winston Chung being fired by the Thunder Sky Battery Company is probably technically accurate, not what you thought. He left them months ago. Apparently some falling out with his investors, and he took his ball and bat, went to another baseball field, and started a new company, the Winston Battery Company Limited. And so we will find out about Sinopoly, because I am interested in that 200 amp hour cell in that format, but that's basically what's going on. He cashed out, he still owns 43% of the company, but went from 79% to 43% in a month and a half, and took the money and it started another company, Winston Battery Company Limited. And if there is any legal repercussions, if it's anything like the United States, it'll be 9 years from now and won't matter.
It'll all be over.
So there you go, and there you have it, and there it is. The brains and the entrepreneur behind all this is Winston Chung, and what's left with Thunder Sky, Sinopoly, I think it's unclear. We're going to try to contact them and see what they've got going.
See what they've got,
Calb, of course, is now the China Aviation Lithium Battery Company. They make some good cells, and now have a U.S. presence, but they're just lost, dazed, and confused. We did talk to them about a sponsorship. Their head marketing guy in China kind of fell apart, because he wanted us to make him a logo that said CALB, which stands for Cost a Less Bill.
Cost a Less Bill, yeah.
I never did quite get this across to him that probably wasn't going to be as effective as he thought. In English.
No. China Aviation Lithium Battery Company was actually better.
Yeah, it was actually better as Chinese, but CALB, Cost a Less Bill, probably is not going to happen.
No.
But would he listen to me? Oh, no. So you may see Cost a Less Bill on a car near you soon.
Coming to a billboard in your area.
And so that they're a little bit lost, but they're the ones that brung us was these Chinese prismatic cells. I'm still amazed by them, and so let's if there's no other real news, let's talk a little bit about our Cobra.
Okay.
Just very briefly, this is our Weld Racing wheels with the Michelin Energy Saver. All season, low rolling resistance tire. Now on the front, the tire and wheel that we received was 42 pounds, and this one's 31 pounds.
Wow.
On the rear, they were 48 pounds, and this one is 31 pounds, and should feature a much lower rolling resistance. The car's a little cocked right now because on the other side, we still have the same wheels and tires.
It always makes me seasick.
And so we're going to kind of show you here. I'll take some close-ups and show you the difference, but eventually we're going to run the car both ways to see
what we get.
Carl and I have been working on battery boxes.
When Jack's not stripping out the terminals.
We actually had this box done. It was completely done, and it's non-trivial, as I'm going to show you here in a minute. And all I have to do is hook up the cable to the feed-through terminal on the box to one bolt, and I got it in there so cross-threaded and upside down and backwards, we were going to have to disassemble the whole pack to get to it. Brain came in and devised some technique for retapping.
I had to make a tool.
He had to manufacture the tools to do that.
Jack comes to me yesterday morning.
Holy
how's
smoke,
your day?
was I relieved.
Pretty bad. What's the matter? Come on down here. I want to show you something.
Let me show you this
now.
up front. This is two Thunder Sky
the 90s, huh?
LFP 90 amp hour cells
that we're using in the Cobra.
We are going to use these cells in the Cobra, and we're going to use them in buddy pairs.
Okay.
Why would we do that? Well, it gives me a little bit different and more granular, I think, form factor for 180 amp hours. Instead of a taller cell that's wider and thinner, I'm making a shorter, sort of brick-like pair. That's an advantage. The number one advantage, and I've been wanting to try this forever, remember our discussions about some of the problems with our batteries being that they vary in capacity.
Which they do, yeah.
I can't count on a 180 amp hour cell being 180 amp hours. Some of them, in theory, are 178, and some of them are 182. And perhaps some of them are 184.
Right.
And that's about the range of difference, so it's not too bad. The same holds true with the 90s. Now, if I take my series of cells, let's say I was going to do 138 cells.
Okay.
And I break them in half and do two strings, parallel strings. That gives me some interesting duality.
Which we did in the first
Which we did in the first Speedster.
We did it like that in the first Speedster, exactly.
But if I actually pair them up, even without checking their capacity, just the random luck of the draw.
Yeah, just the law of averages, huh?
The law of averages, we are going to diminish the difference in capacity between any two adjacent sets of pairs from what we would have with any two adjacent single cells.
Okay. Yep.
Do I need to explain? Everybody can pretty much grasp that, can't they? If this was a 92 and an 88, we average 90.
90, right.
If it was an 89 and a 91, we average 90.
Yep.
Now, it's possible that I could accidentally put two 92s,
Yeah.
but statistically,
Yeah.
it's going to work in my favor. Will it eliminate the problem? No. Will it ameliorate the problem? Yes. Let's talk a little bit about connections. We've dribbed and drabbed this to them over some time, but we haven't talked about it in a while.
Okay.
Here are our two terminals. One copper is our anode, and one aluminum is our cathode on each of them. And we're going to connect them. And I'm going to strap these as a pair. And the first thing I'm going to do is take a little abrasive block. This is over $1, but I think you get two of them.
Yeah, I think they come in a double pack.
At Lowe's.
Yeah.
They're meant to sand windowsills or something.
And stuff, yeah. And the block is nice because it makes it level, yeah.
It's not really sandpaper. No sand comes off of it when you do that, and that's kind of important. But it is abrasive. On my aluminum and my copper, whether or not you can see it, is a film of oxidation, corrosion, if you will. And that inhibits a little bit electrical flow. This isn't a big deal, but it's a technique we use here at EVTV, and I would urge you to adopt it because it costs nothing and it's very easy to do.
Very easy to do.
We're going to take the little block, and you can see it on the copper a little easier. I'm just going to burnish that a little bit and show it on camera. One's dark and one's bright and shiny like a shiny penny. And that takes off the corrosion. I'm not going to do this ahead of time. I'm going to do it right before I put my connectors. And the reason is, as soon as I finish swiping this it's immediately going to start the process of oxidation again.
That darn air.
That darn air.
Yep.
And so I'm just going to scratch that up a little bit. This is fairly fine, not terribly coarse. I like it because it's easy to handle. And
yeah, they're already flat.
And it doesn't shed grains of sand or something. This is a 60 millimeter. That is the distance between the center of the two holes. Braided tinned strap that comes from China, but we get them from EV Works in Australia.
Australia, yeah.
They have them the right size and just a slightly oblong hole, which is quite important.
That's nice.
As you'll find in dealing with it. And it's copper braid, but tinned, and the bottom surface is quite flat. And so it does have a top and bottom, and I'm just going to scratch that tin plating, which is silver and tin, that they actually dip this in. I'm just going to knock a little off there. I'm not going to go through to the copper, just scuff it just a little bit and place that across the two positive terminals. These come with the batteries, but I get them from McMaster Car. This is an M8 metric bolt. It's 16 millimeters in length, and it has a pitch of 1.25 millimeters.
1.25 millimeters, yeah.
They're 30 cents. This is the pricey part, and that is a Nordlock
yeah, we love those.
M8 wedge lock washer. And this is the magic that keeps us from having to revisit connections.
Yeah.
Now, what you do is, of course, put the Nordlock. It comes in a pair. It has a little cam in between the two pieces and some serrated teeth top and bottom. If I put this in here and start to tighten it down a little bit, I'm going to stop right there and go get another one with another washer and put that in the other hole and just start to thread that. Why am I doing that, Brain?
Well, you want to be able to center these things.
You do, but more importantly, and we've done it time and again, if I stick the wrench on and tighten down the one, the strap flops over and contacts the negative terminals, throws a huge plasma ball up my face, arcs everything, and welds to my terminals.
And if you're doing it upside down, it's even worse.
So I carefully place the flat side of the braid on the terminals and gently thread in both bolts. And then I have an insulated 1/4 inch with a, it's a 13 millimeter really, or a ½ inch. They're about the same thing. This is, of course, your little automatic wrench that we have shrunk a heat shrink on. So if I'm on this terminal and I contact this one,
no biggie.
No biggie. Do this to your wrenches. You can buy ceramic wrenches and insulated wrenches. They're quite pricey.
They're expensive. And they're kind of
just
difficult
take a
to
wrench
use, some
and
of them,
heat shrink some military, the thick-walled heat shrink with the adhesive on it. It takes a few minutes and it will pay off. And then we simply tighten down our bolts with the wrench until it is snug. Let me do the other one.
This is what we spend most of our time doing.
And we spend a lot of time doing it. Now, notice two things. One, it's snug, but I'm not getting out on the end of the wrench.
You're not really have to torque on it.
And putting it on there. I think the actual torque value I was quoted was 28 or 30 inch-pounds.
Yeah, which
we don't
much.
torque them. Yeah. We tighten them down snugly, we call it. That locks, that cam lock, the upper and lower serrations. These are very hard, and they're zinc-coated. We get the zinc-coated Nordlocks, and there's a reason for that. That pretty much locks that down, and that bolt, they just simply do not back off from vibration, thermal expansion, or anything else.
And didn't we run a nice little video back, I don't know, a few months ago, I guess, that actually showed all you guys how to...
It did.
About the
That
Nord lock.
showed the Nord locks
Yeah.
and how they resist and actually graft the various Belleville washers, which are
The wavy ones, yeah.
the wavy Bellevilles,
Yeah.
or the traditional electronic thing, the lock washer,
washer,
the various techniques. This has worked out absolutely the best. We've revisited these terminals. You almost can't break them loose. There's a cam action, and you have to get past that to get one to loosen.
Get it loosened, yeah.
And so we found it to be very good. I'm going to take the other strap. Again, it has kind of a rounded edge here and a flat one there. Now, what I do want, you know, a lot of people we've had in here do not understand this. This bolt is not what carries the current. What we're doing is mating a very flat surface here to a very flat surface here and pressing them together. The bolt secures that. The current flow is out one terminal into the strap, into the other one. If it becomes so loose that you actually ran some current through the bolt, what happens is the bolt welds into the threads and starts to throw chunks and heat. Neither are good. Now, we've experimented with a lot of things over the course of 3 years, and this is where we're, and I'm still looking for the ultimate solution.
Right.
So
This seems a pretty good one.
But we are having some great success with these braided straps. They come in different sizes for our Winston 400 amp hour cells. That's an M14 bolt.
Yeah.
But they're fairly narrow cells, and so what EVworks stocks and appears to work is a 55 millimeter hole-to-hole situation with 14 millimeter holes
14 hole,
to
yeah.
accommodate the 14 thing. And so we tighten this down again snugly, but we're not trying to play King Kong with it.
No, because we are.
I'm up here on the head of the thing.
Yeah.
Again, insulated handle. And here is our buddy pack of two 180 amp cells. Let's go see what Carl's done on some boxes on the Cobra.
Okay.
This episode of EVTV is brought to you by the Winston Battery Company Limited, makers of high-capacity lithium-yttrium rare earth cells, including the popular 160 amp-hour model featuring cycle lives in excess of 5,000 cycles when discharged to 70%, the longest useful working life of any available battery of any chemistry. A leading battery technology scientist, inventor, and entrepreneur since 1995, Mr. Winston Chung envisions a new world of clean electric power for the dawn of a new era of electric vehicles. For your next electric vehicle design project, contact Winston Battery Limited. Energy for a bright future. Working on some of the battery boxes for the Cobra. We've got a space in the front between two members of the frame that's 27 inches across.
27 inches.
And we found we could get about a foot tall in there. And of course, our batteries are 9 inches, and we need a little space to put connections. So, what have you done to me here?
Well, we're going to be sticking 20 batteries in here all together, 2 layers of them, all the way across. They'll be set back all the way. Oh, there we go. Give it a nice tight fit. They'll all fit in here real nice and snug. It'll go up on here. We'll group them together, and we put these lugs, the main lugs up here. We're going to run one main supply from each side and bring them together into the...
Okay, and how are you going to mount to the car?
Oh, we're actually going to mount them with slot head screw head bolts. They're actually 1/4 inch bolts, and actually in planning and building this thing, As you can see, we got these batteries right up against it. So we had to take precise measurements, because what we're doing is we're actually going to be putting the heads of these bolts right into the grooves of the battery.
So the battery will fit flat up against the box?
Yep, so there'll be no...
How many on each side?
We're going to put 3 on each side, so there's going to be a 6 total, and they'll be going right through the frame.
How long is your bolt?
Our bolt's about 3 inches, because we do have to go by a 2x4 frame and a little bit of fiberglass and really get it mounted stout up there. So
you're going to have 3 on each side through the 2-inch steel frame.
Yep.
That ought to be pretty stout for 20 cells.
Oh yeah, it should hold it well.
One of the things we're doing on this that's kind of unusual, but I think is going to work out fairly well, is we're using these Thunder Sky 90 cells so we can take advantage of the granularity of that size. They're smaller cells, but we really want 180 amp hours. Now normally we would construct 2 strings of cells and time at the ends. We're going to try something a little different this time. We're actually going to strap them into buddy pairs. So these 2 cells will be in parallel, and then the 2 next to it will be in parallel. And we will actually have 5 of these pairs across here, and then that'll strap up to the next row, and we'll have 5 back. And so we're going to have to be careful with our distribution there, that we come out with a negative and a positive terminal. But we'll have to inevitably run a cable from one, to the other inside here. But we're going to strap them in pairs. Why would we do that? It's going to be considerably more actually expense on the straps and the bolts, and it's going to complicate things. Recall that we had discussed that the batteries vary in capacity slightly. By putting them in pairs like this, we kind of introduce sort of a random sort and delete algorithm here, where that should even out, not completely, but to some degree, the differences in capacity. If we would measure the capacity of all the cells and marry the largest one to the smallest one, and then the next largest to the next smallest, that would be the ideal way to do that. It would be a heroic amount of work. We're not going to do that. We're just going to kind of randomly put them in pairs, and that will get us 180 amp hours on a string, but it will let us do this where we can in even numbers. And so that's how we're going to arrange the cells in the box. We've got these through bulkhead connectors. Where did I get those? I think that was from, no idea. I'll look that up. We'll put it up on screen. Where I got these, they're actually kind of pricey, but they're you cut a hole in your box. It's a through bulkhead connector that gets you safely through without any of this chafing or anything. Yeah. We'll put cables internally in the box connecting to the batteries, and then this will just act like a module for our car, and we'll run a cable to each of these terminals and put a standard rubber terminal protector over it. But this is a piece of some sort of phenolic plastic threaded with copper through it, and then some stainless hardware, and you will bolt your straps or your terminal lugs down against the copper, and so this should be able to handle a good amount of current. And we may have to handle a good amount on this car, up to 1,500, 2,000 amps, potentially. Depends on what we can do with the controller here. But then that screws in, and the plastics and mounting keep it away from the aluminum of the box. And let me see if I can get this cross-threaded on here appropriately.
Well, it does go on 2 or 3 different ways.
Well, I know. And that always confuses me.
It's the right way, the wrong way, and the way we want to put it on.
Well, that's right. and how Jack left it last. And that's So that's how we'll get through the box. This will mount in the front forks, and I think it'll look good. He's primered it. We put a coat of, we're getting where we like this Rust-Oleum hammered black
finish. Yeah, it looks real good. It, you know, gives it that rough and tough look.
Yeah, the black kind of makes it disappear.
Yep.
And the hammered finish disguises all our mistakes. Weld things, and it's just kind of got a textured finish. And so scratches on the box and that, they kind of disappear.
Yep.
So let's stick this up in the car and show it to me. Mount it up in there.
We'll do that.
Then what you're going to put an angle iron, little aluminum angle,
Yep.
and we'll make a cover for this.
Yep, get it all nice and sealed up and covered up.
And the cover, we'll use some of our C-deck or something to secure these in there where they don't come flying out if we hit a bump in the road. Okay, show me underneath what we got.
All right, here we are underneath this beautiful Cobra, and what you're doing, as you can see here, here's a cross member, and we're actually going to be going right across the cross member, right here, in front of the cross member, I'm sorry, right across the frame rails. We actually have drilled 3 bolt holes that go all the way through it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take our box, slide it right on up here. Put our bolts through.
And who drilled those holes real straight through the frame cross?
Mr. Brian drilled them nice and straight through there. Let me get these bolts back in here the correct way. Brought to my attention. They can enjoy me fighting with getting bolts through. As everyone knows, it ain't always easy. I don't know, Brian. I don't think you drilled them too straight. They're not sliding right through. It's got to be your fault. It ain't mine.
Operator error.
That's right. Operator of the drill. Had these in here earlier and they slid right in like there's nothing. Actually, it is easier to get these things started and then let the vehicle down and put them in from the top. But for our viewing pleasure, I'm going to allow you to watch me fight with these. There we go. They'll be sliding in there just like that. Got the nice flat head on the inside. Nut and bolt them from the outside. That's how it's going to be done. All the way across. We'll get some washers and nuts up there, tighten it on down, and then we'll be ready to hook up our cables, get our batteries in there, get the cover on, and get everything going.
This is kind of an interesting view. I'm actually inside the car on the left with it lowered around me, and you can see our steering and our front frame brace there, some of our suspension. This is the box that Carl has engineered in place between the 2 forks, 27 inches apart. And you can see the alternating bands of the little buddy pairs. We actually have the pass-through on the top. There's the positive, and there's the negative. There's the light out the scoop. That's a view you don't often get from a Cobra, as we would normally be inside a 429 big block right now. We have cables that connect the positive terminal down here to a positive terminal on the battery. You can see where that's connected. That's the one I cross-threaded as the very last act of assembling this, and Brian had to repair with a tap and a special tool he manufactured in order to retap that. And here is our negative terminal, and it goes over here to this connection in order to guard our little pass-throughs. We put some military heat shrink. It's a double-walled heat shrink over the braid here and here to prevent any arcing or any problems. We'll put a couple of pieces of our color-fast plastic decking over all this, and then a lid that affixes to this aluminum frame around the box to enclose the module. This has got 20 cells, about 33 volts at 180 amps, and is essentially right in front of the scoop on the car, which we're going to block off.
NetGain Motors, home of the Warp, Transwarp, and Impulse motors, introduced the improved Warp 9 motor. The Warp 9 is a 9 1/4 diameter series wound DC motor with a double-ended shaft featuring 26 improvements for 2010. Externally, the terminal studs have been enlarged from 3/8 to 1/2 inch diameter. Bigger is better. On the inside, a larger commutator, new brush composition, and split brush design with heavier springs handle even higher voltages and currents than before. Our new fan increases airflow by almost 50% over typical paddle-style fans, and all this translates into improved performance. For even more performance or larger applications, take a look at NetGain's Warp 11 motor, an 11 3/4 diameter series wound DC motor for even greater torque and power. Since 2002, NetGain Motors has been leading the EV industry with precision, performance, and price. Visit us at go-ev.com. NetGain Motors, warp power to go.
All right. Hi, today we're here working on the AC Cobra, and we did get our battery boxes in. We got one large battery box coming back here. It's actually going to go between these frame rails. We wanted to get right up in there, be real nice and snug. There's going to be some angle iron. We're going to actually bolt it into these frame rails just for strength and durability. We want to make sure these batteries aren't going to fall out going down the road. B&B already started fiberglassing back here, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to trim out all the fiberglass in through here that's actually coming into the frame rail area. So if you guys want to just stand with us for a little bit, we're going to go through here, we're going to cut this out, that way that battery box will just slide right up in there. Make sure you wear all safety precautions, and definitely when you're cutting fiberglass, wear some kind of breathing filtration system, because you don't want to be breathing this stuff in. It ain't too good for the lungs. So let's get prepared to make some dust. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. Yep, these goggles aren't going to work. I'm going to have to rely on my standard glasses here today. And that's basically what you want to do. You want to trim this all the way out, all the way around. We still got some stuff on this other side we're going to do. We're just so happen to use a cutoff wheel to do this, but there's plenty of other tools you could use a saw, you could use a jigsaw, you could just use a saw blade if you wanted to. But for time purposes and just to get the job done, it's just easier using a cutoff saw. So why don't you hang with us for a little bit, and we're going to get this thing cut out, and we'll see if we can't get one of these battery boxes mounted today.
Mr. Skurchak.
Yes.
When last we spoke, you were cutting out some fiberglass.
Yep.
Since then, we've developed a whole battery module. Tell me about it.
Well, what we did is we had our wonderful shop that makes our battery box for us, make up a battery box.
Twice?
Yes, twice. Well, our ruler measures a little bit different than theirs, you know.
By a quarter of an inch?
Yes, all measuring apparatuses aren't the same, unfortunately. We've learned that over the years of having battery boxes and whatnot done. And they made one up and it actually fits perfectly. It's a nice tight squeeze in between the frame rails. And we just slid it right up between the frame rails, and we actually use some specialty fittings that Martian has. They're nutserts. It allows us not to have to drill all the way through the frame. You just drill holes, you put these inserts into the frame, you basically collapse them like a rivet, and it gives you a nice tight nut up in there that you can just run bolts up through.
What's the brand name on that car?
Martian. Martian, the same ones who makes all the rivets. Actually, Alcoa bought out Martian, and so it's kind of a group effort now, but they're definitely worth getting into and using to do projects like this, so you don't have to worry about drilling all the way through both sides of the frame and making sure everything's straight.
So we've got, what, some 12 gauge frame?
Yep.
And you drilled the hole and put this nutsert. And when you put a nut in, but it's got a little.
Yeah, it's got a little tool. You put this right up in the hole you drilled, and then you hook your tool up to it, and it actually pulls the top portion through the bottom portion and actually crimps it right to the frame, gives it a real nice tight fit. And
kind of like pulling your upper lip up over your head and then jumping?
Yep, there you go. There you go.
Okay.
And when you actually put the bolt through, it actually pulls it even tighter. So, I mean, it's in there. It ain't going nowhere.
And they say they've broken bolts before that's come out.
Yep, they'll say that you can actually break a bolt on one. I haven't tried it. Didn't want to really test it, but I do know that when I put the box in, I tightened it up pretty darn tight. Didn't have any problems with them. So
you just took some, what are we using, 1/8 by inch, angle, aluminum angle, and built a frame, and then drilled some holes in that, put these nutserts in the frame, and bolted it up into that.
Yep.
And that holds this box. We extend, what, 3-4 inches below, and this high into our trunk, where the gas tank would normally be. We've got 42 cells in 24 pairs with our tinned braided straps in. And we're going to a new device that I've kind of fallen in love with. These are a bigger version that I got from BCE, I think. But we're kind of going to these Cole Hersey. It's part number 46211. This is a dash RBX. They have a dash 1BX that's black. And this is a little bit of hardware that is a bulkhead feed-through battery connector. And these will carry quite a bit of current if you don't drop all the hardware. And it consists of a little brass thing. Now those are pretty big versions of this that are copper and can carry even more current. I like the little ones better, but they simply, well, that's lost, a little washer, but you have a little tooth nut that's really on there. Here it comes. That threads onto here. You drill a hole. We use a, what do they call it? A step drill. It's like a cone to drill a big hole in the aluminum. And you stick this in and then back it up with this toothed retainer that threads on. And that gives you a secure insulated way to pass that current through the box using a regular cable with a terminal lug. And again, it holds the terminal flat to this, in this case, brass carrier. In that case, a slightly larger copper one for increased current capability. And so we take a couple of cables and in the box strap our positive and negative terminals of the module to that inside, and now I can screw onto these with ordinary cables, and I have a positive and a negative. You added, again, what's this, 1 inch?
Yep, this
eighth?
Yeah, this is actually 1 1/8 inches.
We just drilled holes and put little, what do you use, number 10s?
Actually, those are 1/4 inch.
1/4 inch screws, nuts, and lock washers. No fancy welding and so forth. And this is an important part you kind of missed on the front box, where he innovated a little bit with some rivets. You can get into a situation where you need to extract a cell without disassembling the pack. I can go along and pop those nuts and pull one of those rails out and get access if I had to have it pretty easily. So I like them just screwed on there, and then that will carry a lid, and we simply drill and tap 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch screws to retain the lid. Where's your lid? Throw that on there,
Right
and
here.
let's show them.
Here's the lid. Sometimes you really got to keep an eye on how you build these boxes to make sure after they're installed you can get a lid on.
Yeah,
Sometimes
or get a box in. This box absolutely had to go in from the bottom.
Yes.
It would not, you couldn't get it through the opening. So there we've got a lid. We've got some possibilities here. For one, I've got a shelf back here that we might be able to get some batteries on vertically. I had wanted to be able to set batteries across in another box. You've kind of got me on our hardware, but that's because we had to raise the box 2 inches. When what we had in it, it was kind of a pavement scraper if you went up a driveway. It looked funny, and Carl made me raise it 2 inches. Kind of for appearances more than anything, but it does avoid scraping. The cost is I can't stand cells up here now, but I could lay them down this way, and that should get me 14 cells across there. And I could, I suppose, build another box and have them go across this way, and put a little bit of our plastic decking between them to keep them from meeting, and I might get a few cells up there. So I'm thinking that we would probably get another 28 cells on top of this box in their own little mini enclosures, and perhaps another 10 up there, and that would get us 38 or perhaps 40 additional cells on top of our 42 here, and we'll have to work on that. If we did have 82 here and 20 up front, we're at 102, 14 on the belly pans, and that's gets us to 116.
Almost there.
We really only need 12 cells to reach our minimum 128. We can find room for those up front.
Yeah.
After the motor and transmission's in, we're going to have to build a rack type box that sits on that frame over the motor, and I'd like to get 40 cells in that. That would get us more weight in the front, but also closer to my ideal 240 volts. So good job on the rear box. It looks good. I think it's going to work good.
Thank you.
We have to keep working to get more cells in the trunk.
Squeeze and squeeze.
Show me the front box.
Let's go on up front.
Somewhat controversial is the concept of the side pipes. These are the exhaust pipes for a massive 8-cylinder, 429 cubic inch, fossil fuel sucking,
lots of noise,
gas spewing POS that we don't even have in a car.
Yep.
This is the tailpipe.
Yep.
This is where you would suck start a V8.
That's right.
We don't need it at all.
Hey, they like the look. They like the look of those side pipes on the Cobra. Completely unfunctional. They do absolutely nothing for us.
I'm kind of a form follows function guy, Carl.
I hear you.
This, you do not know how annoying this is for me. I would yank these puppies out and mail them to Uncle Jed and Jethro to do with as they would.
Yep, I hear you.
Would you believe our customer and the guy who builds these cars likes these pipes?
Yep.
They think they're a key element of Cobra dumb.
Yep, it gives it the Cobra look.
Okay, well, all right. Then there you are.
But they serve no purpose.
Well, they do serve a purpose for us. They hide a little battery box right back here that
They
you
do
have
help.
cunningly constructed at a .063, very lightweight. What do you call that?
Diamond plate.
Diamond plate.
Yep.
And we've made it very lightweight, bolted it up, and we have to actually jack the car up to drill holes in the frame to accept this, but we've simply faced it with, again, some 1/8, 3/4 in this case, angle, and bolted that up into the frame, leaving the bottom bare, and it's quite flimsy.
Yes, right now it is.
It'll hold 7 cells serially, but we're in buddy pairs. Fortunately, we have a pipe on each side, and so a box on each side, and they're going to have 7 cells sequentially, and then we're going to parallel the 2 boxes. And this sort of is not with my buddy pair theme of you know, statistically working
Having
out
them
the
next to each
differences
other.
in the thing, but it'll still work. As far as the flimsiness, we can fix that a little bit. This is a piece of 2-inch, 1/8 angle, a little piece of aluminum. We will put another piece of 1-inch, what is that, an 1/8? Bolt all that together, and it'll make like a Z. I think we can put that across there, bolt it up, and that will more than adequately brace that front edge and hold all those batteries very tightly against the bottom tray where the seats are. And in this way, we get, you know, another 14 cells.
Yep.
And we're really not losing much in the way of ground clearance by the time this sucks up 1 inch or 2, completely hidden by these goofy exhaust pipes
That do nothing.
that
But
and do it very well, apparently. Okay, so that's our what we normally refer to as a belly pan. In this case, just one narrow one under each side. Because of the nature of the frame, there was a little sled there for each of the passenger and the driver to hold them up, I guess, and brace up the frame. We're going to have, again, our pass-throughs on the, and we'll just take a little copper strapping and twist that and hook it up to those cells and connect them externally with cables. We'll link the 2 of them in parallel, and we'll have another 14 cells.
Yep. 14 closer to 140.
And about 20 volts. And we're going for volts. I need 240 at 180 amp hours, and we're going to take them where we can find them.
That's right.
It looks good, Carl.
Thank you.
You're getting there, buddy. We're going to make you a fabricator yet.
Lots of practice.
Yeah.
Lots of practice, you can do anything.
More batteries. We got to have more batteries.
More batteries. Lots of batteries.
Did you get
Masterflux proudly presents the Sierra Series brushless DC variable speed electric compressors. The Masterflux family of compressors are up to 40% smaller and lighter than competing belt-driven DC automotive compressors. Masterflex uses rare earth neodymium magnets for longer life and greater efficiency. The robust rotary design is ideally suited for rugged EV applications. With a scroll-type compressor, the process begins with the refrigerant entering the evaporator from the suction side. Refrigerant then travels through a reed valve to the top of the compressor, where it is compressed at up to 8 times the incoming pressure before exiting out the discharge tube to the condenser. Masterflex compressors are available in 400 to 15,000 BTU per hour capacity range for multiple refrigerants, including 134A. Output can be manually adjusted using a simple 0 to 5 volt pot. Masterflex compressors are available to handle input voltages of 12 to 420 volts DC and come with a specific BLDC motor controller for each voltage range. The new Masterflex 2011 product catalog can be downloaded from their website at www.masterflex.com. Masterflex products are available in the US from Revolt Custom Electric Vehicles, in Australia from EV Works, and in South Asia from EV World. Masterflex, the technically elegant choice for powerful electric air conditioning.
On the
I like them.
well, you know, I don't.
No?
Battery boxes are a wrestling job.
Oh, I know.
We actually send them out. Have an old friend of mine, Dan Toad at Southeast Fabricating, welds them up for us out of aluminum. Then we put all kinds of angle irons and screws in them and paint them and do a bunch of stuff. It's sort of mechanical work.
Yeah.
Half of the work of doing an electric vehicle, I believe, is working out the battery placement and
Yeah.
and getting them mounted
Getting them
securely.
mounted, yeah. Yep.
We're we've progressed as we go along. We're using those feed through terminals,
Yeah, the terminals
more
now, yeah.
instead of cables through gland nuts and stuff,
Right.
or that sort of thing, and making sort of modules. But it's a task. I want to share with you a little bit about how we are coming to that, and some of it is you just have to see how many you can squeeze in.
Yeah.
Young Matt was much better than I am at what was his last name?
Hopper.
Hopper.
Matt Hopper, yeah.
Hopper was much better than I was at squeezing maximum batteries into
squeezing them
minimum
in.
space.
Yeah.
He really was kind of a magician at it. But everything in AV design is a WAG, and everything is a sort of subject to being revisited. In this case, we have some overarching design criteria on the car that I have kind of obligated to. It's not a crime if I miss by a little, but it's what we're working to.
Right, right.
And that was, the man wanted 120 miles per charge and a 6 to 8 second 0 to 60.
Right, right.
Now, I don't know how to tell you this, but here's the root of electric vehicles. You can have fast, you can have far, and you can have relatively inexpensive. Pick two.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't get all three.
Don't get all three, yeah.
Now, he's willing to write a check, and he said he wants 120 miles on a charge.
On a charge, yeah.
And he said he'd like to see something in the 6 to 8 second range. We don't have a lot of data points. I'd say our most performing car, and again, this is a little far from my heart. There's no mention of road handling ability here. There's no mention of elegance or grace. It's just, if you're at a stoplight and you press the pedal, what happens?
That's right.
Now, do I get that? Is that the Cobra mystique?
Yeah, if you had a rear view mirror, you want to see everybody behind you get real small very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instant miniaturization
That's
of
right.
the vehicles behind you.
Yes, that's right.
I get it. It's not one I share, but I understand it.
Yeah.
Our one data point would be Speedster Redux.
Yes.
We operate that car at 192 volts
We do.
using 57 180 amp hour cells.
Yeah, they're stuffed everywhere.
Those cells at 1,000 amps for the soliton sag to 147 volts.
They do.
But it does produce 1,000 amps, and that's 147 kilowatts. Because of the ungainly number of fat batteries we have in an overweight car, we have a weight of 2,385 pounds, and that works out to 62 watts per pound.
Yeah, that's 62 watts.
My working theory, and it is subject to ruling resistance, frontal area, and so forth, is that if we had 62 watts per pound on the Cobra, we would have a 6.5 second.
Okay.
0 to 60.
Okay, right.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Well, to do that, we have to have a gross voltage of 215 volts. Ergo, the 11 HV motor. We're past arcing range.
Right, past arcing, yep.
So we have selected the net gain warp 11 HV motor to do this. That's going to require 128 cells. With our box in back, that's 42.
Right.
And our box in front, that's another 20. I have 62.
64, right?
No.
Oh, 62. Yeah, 62. Yeah.
I can get 7 on each side right behind these pipes in a little pack. And that's another 14.
14.
And we're at 62 plus 14 is 76 cells.
76.
I only have another 52 cells to go.
It's an entire,
to get to our
entire vehicle. Can we get a second Cobra to tow?
All that space I had in the Cobra that I was raving about.
Yeah. You know, I let it get wet that night. I bet it shrunk.
It's gone. And we're struggling here. But if I could get 128 cells, we have an 872 pound battery pack and probably about 2,800 pound car.
Okay.
I'm going to say that that'll take 270 watt hours per mile to run. And we're going to have a 38 kilowatt hour pack, which will do a maximum range of 140, but to 80% is about 112 miles.
112 miles, yeah.
Now, I can demonstrate this car to him at 120, and it will have done 120 miles.
I've done 120 miles, yeah.
I would prefer you limit it to 112. If we could get 142 cells in the car physically, that is going to be a 968 pack and a 240 voltage.
Okay.
Which is really where I would like to be with this car. And that gives me not 62 watts per pound, but 66. And this is including the extra weight for the battery. I have a kind of a spreadsheet that balances all this out.
Okay.
And we wind up with 66 watts per pound on the increased weight. And that gives us a 42.8 kilowatt pack. Kind of getting to be an expensive battery pack.
Yeah, it's a lot of cells.
But that's 153 miles max and 122 real miles.
Yeah, that's 120.
At 80%.
Yeah.
The maximum voltage that George would recommend on the net gain 11 HV.
11 HV, okay.
And which, of course, he and I would like to see what would happen at that voltage. Would be 288 volts, and it would turn this thing into a screamer. And but that's an 1,159 pound pack on a car that, starting with without the wheels, that's about what it weighs.
Yeah, like a 1,200 pound car.
And so we're increasing our percentage of the car that is made up of battery mass, basically. But that would require 170 cells. And it would be a battery pack of 51,480 watt hours But that would have a maximum range of 198 miles. I bet it could squeeze another 2. What do you want to bet? And 158 at 80%. And but most importantly, it would feature a 74 watts per pound ratio.
Man, it would scream too.
Now, if range and screaming is what you want, we got to cram 170 cells into the car, and it gets to be an expensive car.
Yeah.
But
Real estate's an issue.
I would really like to find a way to get 142 cells. We're going to have to fill the trunk, and then I really need a rack over that motor that holds a substantial number of cells.
Okay.
And so that's just where we put a controller and a charger and so forth is
in your lap.
Maybe in your lap there, Paul. But we have to. It would really be certainly. I would expect this to come in somewhere between 128 and 142 cells, and I'd like it to be an even number.
Yeah, especially
since
we're doing
I'm
buddy
doing
pairs.
them in pairs.
Yeah, buddy pairs help.
But that's where, with the minimum 128 cells will give us, I would predict, based on the watts into the motor per pound, would be 62, and we're going to have 128 cells. And we might get a little bit of gain just from the 11 HV.
Yeah, that's true enough. That's a completely different motor, different torque, different, get a little more RPM.
I am kind of excited, and I'm not going to announce it this week. We'll talk about it next week. But we're looking at a 1400 amp controller that will be quite a surprise in some ways. And I think a very exciting development for the car. At 1400 amps instead of 1000, all bets are off.
Yeah, it should. Well, there goes the range when I'm driving.
Yeah, well, there goes the me driving, because this thing will turn into
no leather helmet,
a lethal
weapon. That's right.
That I don't really want to drive myself personally.
With the helmet cam.
That's right, with the helmet cam. It's you're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to drive that one vicariously because
from another vehicle.
Yeah, at 1400 amps and the same voltages, we're out of control.
It's a Cobra. They're all out of control.
That's what you tell me, and that's what everything I've found via Google about Cobras is they want to step on the pedal and what is it you say? Make all the cars behind you instantly very tiny.
Very tiny. That's right.
I think I can do that.
But
we've got to scramble to find every cubic inch in this car,
stuff them in there,
to put a battery, and that was kind of why I went to my little cubicle pairs.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
I think you can put them in there easier than the wider and taller. 160s or 180s.
Yeah, I like that.
And so that's kind of what we're doing. I had another battery selected, which would have made the car, basically I would have paid twice what
our commission was
to do the car. But we're going to actually talk about those batteries next week.
Cool.
We have relocated our battery test bench facility.
It is officially relocated from the
to
garage.
here in the shop. I've got to get it set up, and we're going to do a couple of very interesting battery tests next week. We're going to announce the controller for the Cobra.
Cool.
If that's finalized, and I think it's party like rock stars. I'm actually getting into this project.
You getting excited?
Yeah, it's the Nedra guys that got me going. What a bunch of weenies. Let's just start designing cars, and let's see how we do.
All right. I'm in.
I think we're under 12 seconds for this car.
Okay, well,
What do you want to bet?
I guess El Breno's going to have to get him out of mothballs after the Carlisle event and see what he can do.
Wanted to go to Laguna Seca this week, and
the only car we have,
the only car we got with a roll bar.
And it's not done. Yeah, that
we couldn't pass technical inspection.
No, we couldn't pass for refuel. So
we're going to do our own drag race and our own autocross, and you can pass.
Yep, you can pass.
We'll just set it up where they can.
Yeah, the seatbelt, and that's kind of it. Maybe
we'll have
a helmet for the autocross, and that's about it.
Yep, you'll have to wear a helmet. But we're going to do our own drag race, our own autocross, and
bring your
we've
helmet.
got some good people in St. Louis that know how to do this, and I think these Cedra guys.
Got the Cedra guys.
I've gotten drawn into a thing with Nedra, Excedra, and fortunately Excedrin.
Yeah, so to mitigate that, you need some Excedrin.
Whoa, Phil Becker, my partner.
Oh yeah,
in a past career, always said that the level of politics is inversely proportional to what's at stake.
Less at stake, more politics?
That's right.
Isn't that amazing?
Apparently, this one is down to somebody stole a graphic off a website.
I bet they brought it back
to be a sub chapter of the
other guys, like to demonstrate that they wanted to be a part of it. Boy, whew.
Have they got some rocket scientists in that group? So I got in and observed their other debate, other than Jack Rickards doing it all wrong, and that was, did a guy do a drag race with the wind behind him or into him? This is an important thing. It went on for 3 weeks and probably involved 200 messages.
It depends which way the track is facing and what day it was.
The problem with you drag race guys, you don't have enough to talk about because your race only lasts 12 seconds or 10 seconds, and what's to talk about?
That's right.
That's why I don't get it. I have a house in Denver. It's 1/4 mile from Vandermeer. I've never been.
Oh, yeah, Vandermeer Speedway, yeah.
Yeah. It's. I'm going to try to get with it, but it's going to be a struggle here, partner.
It'll be fun.
We're going to race. Hey, let's wrap it up. We'll talk to you all next week.
Okay.
Stay with us.
We'll see you.
All right. Brian has been fired here at EVTV and is no longer on the build team, although he did have to fish out a cross-threaded battery bolt yesterday.
In the car this far from metal.
But officially, he has been dismissed from automotive duties. And the reason is we're, 88 days from...
88 days from the show.
EVCON 2011.
Yes.
The Electric Vehicle Conversion Convention. And what have we got going there, big guy? You're doing that kind of full-time.
It is, yeah. It is kind of full-time.
We got to get ready for this.
We want you all to have something to do when you get there. I guess we promised them something.
Well, we're taking their money. Now we gotta show the stuff.
Well, we do have, I think, a great show for everybody when they get there. Really, the show starts officially on Thursday, but anybody that gets here on Wednesday night, we're gonna have a shop tour here at the shop.
Welcoming reception, little hors d'oeuvres and some.
Yeah, we should have some fun stuff down here.
Yeah, get liquored up, play with some high voltage, go for a drive.
Stand in a puddle.
That's right.
And then Thursday, it'll begin out at the airport, and we'll be doing sessions during the day. We've got breakfasts and lunches and breaks and dinners provided. And that'll be on Thursday. We have a nice party Thursday evening planned.
That's at my house, actually, overlooking the Mississippi River with the bridge. I think that's the night Chris Payne speaks, isn't it?
Yes, that's on Thursday night.
He is actually going to start, it's just out that they're going to release and have screenings of their Revenge of the Electric Car starting in the fall. So this will all be...
all work pretty good.
Yeah, all work pretty good. And we'll have Jerry Ford.
Jerry Ford's orchestra is going to come and play.
We'll have a little barbecue, some beer, and line up the cars in the park next door. And
Yeah, we're going to get the street closed off, get where we can get all the cars down there and keep it really kind of close-knit, let everybody network and bond and tell all kinds of stories about their electric car adventures. Friday, we're back out to the
more sessions at the hangar.
On Friday, yeah, more sessions at the hangar.
We got a lot of technical sessions. I'm going to talk about batteries. George Hamstra has this, NetGain Motors has a special presentation. Kind of, you know, I would cast this as kind of our keynote kickoff thing. I'll introduce do the usual housekeeping thing and introduce George, but he's working on one on future trends in the car, kind of putting all this in context. And he gave us what do we got here?
Well, George, for the first 100 attendees,
first 100 registrants.
Well, 99. I've got a sample.
Well, right. So 99 and Brian. 99. We'll count you in the first 100.
So he did provide a real nice bag, because sometimes the bags they give you at shows are kind of weenie, but this is a nice zipper bag. Got some places for your pocket calculators. You don't have to have them in your pocket anymore. Pens.
It's a great little,
keys.
almost like a briefcase, but nylon, you know, kind of canvas, and with the
emblazoned,
logo on it.
Emblazoned with the Warp Motors NetGain logo on it. So we're actually getting to where. The last couple people better sign up that want a bag.
Right now, we're a week out from the end of the discounted registration now. Through the 1st of July, you can do this at $400. After that, the price goes up. Our full boat registration is going to be $595.
$595, yeah.
I can count on most of you not making your mind up until the final 2 weeks, which, by the way, I do the same thing.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
I'm not going. Brian, I'm not going. Oh, well.
Then we go to the last.
Can we get tickets?
Yeah, that's right. Can we still get in?
And plane tickets and that sort of thing. So then Friday afternoon, I think you've got us in a bunch of stuff here, but we did talk to the airport manager. And
we did.
Apparently this is doable. What are we going to do, say 3 or 4 o'clock Friday evening?
Well, what we're going to do is break from the sessions, and then we're going to have a little bit of racing. And we have the people from the International Electric Drag Racing Association and their East Coast branch are going to set up a quarter-mile drag race.
On the runway.
Right out there on our crosswind runway, if it's not the crosswind runway that day.
Right.
So we'll be out on a runway doing a full timed quarter mile, and it will be sanctioned in the extent that we do have a sanctioning body running the event. So you guys can run your cars down the quarter mile track and see what you got. Prior to that, what I'm trying to do is get where we can weigh the vehicles. So you've got anybody doesn't have those long acre scales. You know, you go to a truck scale, and I'm sure that we found out that the variation on a
we've got some scales. We'll have some guys set up where you can weigh your car. We want to know what it weighs.
We want to know what it weighs.
Find out what it does.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're working on a dynamometer. We're not going to commit to that, but if we can get a guy on a trailer with a dynamometer,
we'll bring that
too.
Yep.
And an autocross.
Yeah, it looks like I think they're SCCA, but a sports car club is willing to come down, set up an autocross course. We've got a nice space reserved out at the airport for that. So we'll have simultaneous events going on, and I've already got people that have asked me, well, how are we going to race in 2 events? I said, well, you just race in one, go race in the other.
Go race in the other.
Yeah, no problem. They're not that far.
It's all there at the airport. We'll probably break, I guess it gets dark about 7:30, so probably 3:30 or so. We'll
get it all started.
And then for dinner, we'll probably just have barbecue, hamburgers, a beer trailer, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing out at the airport. Yeah, it should be nice. And we'll
probably open the racing up to the public.
That's what we're working on. We'd like to get the people around here to be able to see this, and maybe we'll get some extra news coverage. You know, since we open it to the public, this should be a fairly big event.
So you get to show your car pretty well. On Saturday, We're going to have sessions in the morning.
Sessions in the morning,
at the
right?
airport.
Right.
And that we've got the most gorgeous little park here, Kappa Park. I went there yesterday. It's just beautiful. We're going to have like a car show photo op.
Yeah.
Lunch,
yeah.
catered lunch for the attendees out at the park, and we're going to take all the cars out and line them up in the grass, take pictures of them,
Absolutely.
and then kind of do an open hood kind of car show for the public.
Again, for the public to see, yeah.
And maybe do a little car judging or something.
Yeah, I think we'll do something. Either we'll figure out some way to do it, either some local car clubs or something like that, to be able to judge cars, or somebody will look your cars over. I think we could do that.
Saturday evening's a formal dinner.
Yes, kind of our big
with wine,
big
I
dinner.
guess.
Yeah, with wine and
we're going
all kinds
to
of
announce
stuff.
the winner of the EVTV Build Your Dream components contest. We've talked to pretty much all the finalists. They don't have a problem with the have to be there to win.
Have to be there to win. Okay,
thing.
perfect.
And I think we're going to have the components piled up there at dinner and announce the winner of that. Obviously, award some trophies and things for the autocross and the
autocross drag race and possibly the car show.
And possibly the car show.
Yeah.
And drink some wine, have a pretty good feed, and celebrate the basically what I view the whole event as is a birthday launch of what I see as some 4,000 to 5,000 EV conversion shops developing over the next 5 years. And
I think that's
I think that'd be fun.
I think that's a real doer. And
Sunday morning, for the ones with the late flights, we'll probably get some electric cars and drive down to a local winery, have a little brunch, a little wine.
Yeah.
Country dry, winding roads. You know, it's 15 miles out.
Right.
And, so everybody should have the range to do it, and you know, kind of have a little closing lunch, I guess, there, and then
just
come back.
kind of disband till next year.
I suppose so. So it sounds like a great event. Brian has done them before. We used to do a trade show.
We did.
And so this one's, we have right now, I think, 85 people signed up. So we're down to 15 bags.
15
now.
bags, that's right. Get them while they last.
25 cars coming. I'm still amazed at I think these people are wanting to show their cars.
I think so, and we've got maybe a couple of fast drag cars coming. There should be some interesting things in the horizon. One of the things is the people that you know, are not going to drive their cars. There are a couple of caravans that you might have to get that together yourself. People coming from different areas, but we will accept deliveries.
Oh yeah.
Of the vehicles out at the airport, up on the website this weekend. We will have the our information, the address of the hangar officially, some links to some other things, as well as our host hotel, the Jury Lodge. That's up there. Tell them that you're with the EVCCON, and they've got a special rate for you, $69.95. So other than you guys getting yourself here and getting a hotel room, I think they're going to kind of belong to us for 3 days.
So like when we went to Carlisle, they'll be able to ship their cars ahead of time. Somebody will be there to help unload them, get them indoors, and they don't have to worry about the car.
No, and that was a big deal for us going there, is we actually had to keep the guy with us with the 3 cars. He had to stay there with us because you have to move them at a particular time. So this gives you a little bit of fudge on both ends, because as long as you get the car there and get it out of there, we're fine.
I thought we could get some of our viewers together. I originally thought 15 to 20, but yeah, we're at 25 cars now. This is going to be
pretty serious.
a
Fun.
very cool car show.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of car events.
What else we're doing? Lots of speakers. Ryan Baum, controller.
Dr. Dorfer.
Seb, Dr. Dorfer.
That's right, Sebastian Bourgeois.
Started the Thunder Sky discussion group on Yahoo and did his doctorate on Thunder Sky batteries. From Reap Systems, a BMS manufacturer, is going to be speaking. We've got Sebastian Bourgeois. From Evnetics / Rebirth Auto. Wayne Alexander.
Wayne Alexander. He'll tell you how to do it.
we're going to have Bill Ritchie from High Performance Electric Vehicles come talk about their AC situation. I'm going to do some stuff on batteries. Dr. Dorfler is going to do some stuff on batteries. We're going to talk about charging techniques and charging equipment.
And we've still got a few more people that we're adding, but
I'm trying to get an engineer from Warfield to do the whole motor design thing.
Okay, interesting. Cool.
But we're still going to add a few speakers, but this is not going to be standing around and happy talk all the time. We're going to have some hardcore learning sessions during the day, and they'll be fairly intense. We've done this before.
Yeah.
It's kind of like drinking from the fire hose. There'll be more information than you'll be able to absorb.
In that short of time.
And by the end of the day, you'll be whipped and ready to get liquored up, play with some high voltage, and go for a drive.
There you go.
So join us at the Electric Vehicle Conversion Convention, September 21st to the 25th, right here in Cape.
Right here in beautiful Cape Girardeau.
And Brain's going to make it gorgeous.
All right.
You're going to like it.
My name is Green Envy, a regular guy kind of superhero in search of a really good electric car. And this is Carbon Footprint.
I am really pissed off because we have not made any progress so far in our quest for a really good electric car. What are we doing on this train?
We are going to Missouri to attend the first Electric Vehicle Conversion Convention, which can be shortened to EVCCON. If you cannot remember the whole name, remember EVcon.
With a name like that, who could resist? Is this going to be like our trip to Woodstock back in 1969?
Not exactly. Woodstock was a music festival that turned into a muddy expression of social change. This convention will have less music but a lot more wine, as well as classes on how to build electric cars.
So will the Chevy Volt, the car that the U.S. government helped build with a bailout of $50 billion, going to be at the convention to show that America is still leading the way?
Not exactly. General Motors only sold 928 Volts through February 2011, and most of the sales were in California.
California is where my mother, Mother Nature, has a second home. Unfortunately, her mortgage is underwater. Anyway, why don't we just take this train to California and watch all the Chevy Volts that live there?
Because the Chevy Volt is not really an electric car. It is a gasoline engine plus some expensive batteries.
Do you mean that the U.S. government spent $50 billion and did not even get a real electric car?
Yes. I know that is a disappointment to you. But that is why we must go to Missouri. We cannot rely on the government.
So we are going to Missouri because the government cannot get the big car companies to build really good electric cars even if they give them $50 billion.
Correct. We must do it ourselves. That is why a convention of builders is so important.
Okay, I understand. I am glad we are on this train. Even if it is an Amtrak government train, at least it is electric. I will call Mother Nature and tell her to lay off Missouri until after the convention.
I know that Jack and Brain at EVTV will appreciate that. It is time to make our own electric cars. This EVcon gathering will point the way.